name is Omilola Oshikoya. I am Africa's premier wealth coach, and my goal is to inspire millennials to do it afraid and live the richer life. Many people do not fulfill their dreams because of different types of fear. What they do not realize is that fear is part of the process to success. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people is that successful people feel the fear and do it afraid.
Hello everybody, welcome to the Do It Afraid conference, the second conference, our third event. It's an honor to be able to speak to you all. I do hope it'll be beneficial to you. So where do I start from? First of all, I wanted to talk about the theme. So the theme for this conference is the flourishing palm tree and its process. And I'm sure you're wondering, what does a palm tree have to do with Do It Afraid? For those that were at the first conference, the theme was a moth or a butterfly, which would you rather be? So how did I come up with this theme? One day I was doing my quiet time, and for those that are not aware what quiet time is, the time when you just spend time reading your Bible and praying. And I came across this Bible verse, I think it was Psalm 92 verse 12. And it says, the righteous flourish like the palm tree, and the wicked wither like grass. It was in that same chapter, the second part. And I thought, palm tree, grass. Whatever metaphor is used in the Bible is there for a reason. There's always a deeper meaning. And so I said, you know what, I was going to do some research. And another profound thing for me was then, I remember that in my garden, in the front of our garden, we have grass, and then we have this beautiful coconut palm tree. And for the longest time, I've been married for 10 years, thank God, to the amazing man over here. Please give him a round of applause. My husband, Benga. And that palm tree has been there for 10 years, at least the time that I've been there. And we haven't had to water it. We haven't done anything, but it's been there. But the grass, every 2 days, our gardener mows the lawn. So the grass is cut every 2 days rather. And so I said, okay, the righteous flourish like the palm tree, the grass withers, but the wicked wither like grass. So I went and I did some research. And I found absolutely amazing things about the palm tree. There's so many different species of palm trees, but the most common palm trees are, one, the date palm and the coconut tree. Now, the date palm, if you go to like Dubai, you'll see the date palm. It's usually in the desert. And then it comes with this really nice fruit called the date. And you can use it for like jam, for jelly, for different things. And actually, in the Middle East, in those days, they were able to cross territories based on just carrying dates, because it gives a lot of energy. And the second one was the coconut tree. The coconut tree, is phenomenal. If you look at, the other day I was going through the different natural resources of different countries. Nigeria, we wrote oil, cocoa, all sorts of things. Japan, they have nothing. But Maldives, their own natural resource that they put on the CIA World Factbook is coconut, the coconut tree. It grows, you see a coconut tree usually on the seafront. So one thing I noticed about the two of them is that they actually grow in difficult terrains. So if you look at a desert, the date palm, it's actually in sand. It's not like soil that you see in your garden. So how does it flourish in sand? There are no nutrients in sand. The same with the coconut tree. And I found some amazing things. So sorry if this is like biology 101 to you and it's sounding like I'm speaking French, but eventually I'm going to get to the point. So let's talk about the flourishing palm tree. How does a palm tree flourish? It's so funny now that, I've been talking about the theme. It's like everywhere I see palm trees. I actually saw a vision one day of so many palm trees clustered together. When my husband and I went away 2 weeks ago to La Campagna Tropicana, exactly what I saw in the vision is what I saw. And usually when palm trees are together, when they grow, it's usually just palm trees. Every other plant or tree does not survive around a palm tree. Another thing is that they're evergreen. So if you look at one of the biggest and strongest trees is an oak tree. But an oak tree, just 6 months in the year, the leaves are green. But a palm tree, throughout 12 months, the leaves are green. The date palm, the dust of the earth does not accumulate on the date palm. So you would see a date palm tree in the desert and no dust can accumulate. Another thing is that there's this tree killer in Palestine that kills all trees. The only tree that it doesn't kill is the palm tree. Now, if you look at a palm tree, when there's a storm, and there's a little video we'll play later at the end of my speech. When there's a storm, the palm tree moves and it bends. Sometimes it can bend parallel to the ground. It wouldn't break. But you know what? It bounces back up. And when it bounces back up, it's actually stronger than before. Like I said before, it thrives in sandy soil and it's also highly tolerant to salt. Palm trees are used for, there's every single part of a palm tree is used for something. Every single part. The leaves are used for, our local brooms, right? You can make mats, roofs. You can make, we all know coconut. You can have coconut oil. Coconut oil is like gold dust now. We're all going natural and trying to be healthy. Coconut oil, different types of food, furniture, sponge, the coin. They call it coin, the local sponge. Livestock feed, everything, diesel, wax, you can use it. So it's actually a very fruitful tree. So how is the palm tree? How is it that it thrives? Even in difficult situations. If you look at this palm tree, if you look at the roots, very short roots, very small. So other trees actually have deep roots that go into the soil. But the palm tree is so smart. It knows that it's in sand, it's not in soil. So it doesn't need nutrients from the soil anyway. So it has very short roots. Another thing is that the coconut itself is the largest seed in the entire plant kingdom. So how is this palm tree able to use meager resources to have the largest fruit in the plant kingdom? Now let's talk about the growth process. So when it's growing, it starts off as leaves, and then with a long stalk, it grows, and then eventually there's a trunk. But that growth process, the juvenile stage, sometimes can last decades. So it's still there with just the leaves and the stalk for decades. So there's a process, there's no quick fix. Eventually, when it then grows to the adult stage, sometimes it takes 6 years to grow a fruit. Sometimes it will grow 1 fruit a year. But then as it gets older, its fruit becomes more luscious. It becomes sweeter. Another thing I found out was that if you look at a coconut tree, the leaves have no nutrients. It actually has 1/3 of the nutrients of normal trees. So if you look at another tree or another plant, the leaves are packed with nutrients. But the palm tree, the leaves have little or no nutrients. Do you know what that does for it? Now with other plants, because there are nutrients in the leaves, ants, insects, and nibbling animals eat the leaves. But the coconut tree, because there are no nutrients, the leaves constantly stay. So it focuses, it invests on what is important. But then at the bottom, at the base, that's where there's more nutrients. So it focuses its energy on its seed and its fruit, not what people can see, the leaves. How does the coconut tree do this? Now, the most phenomenal thing, and if there's anything you're going to take out of this discussion, this is what you need to listen to. I found that last year, when the revelation came, it was last year, and I found an article, and some guys did some research. They went to Seychelles and did some research. Almost another year, I couldn't find that article again. But I prayed, and I found it. As soon as I prayed, I found it. So one of the most important things about this coconut tree is recycling. So I told you that the sand has no nutrients. So how does it get nutrients? When there's a storm, when the rain pours, the architecture of the coconut tree is like a funnel. Yeah? So it takes all that rain through the leaves. It flows. It has like petty holes in the middle. It flows through, goes all the way down to its root. So it's a funnel. So those researchers found out that almost practically all the rain that fell on the coconut tree, so we're talking about one specific coconut tree, almost all the rain that fell landed right at least a meter between the trunk and the base, just right there. All the rain. But you know what? When it gets to the ground, it's actually not rainwater anymore. Do you know what it does? As the water is coming down, it takes the droplings from lizards, snails, and birds that live on the coconut tree. So it takes those droplings. So by the time it gets to the floor, it's packed with nutrients. It is packed with nutrients. And that's how it can thrive. That's how it can survive, regardless of what territory it's in. And that's why it can survive even some of the worst kind of hurricane storms. So how does that apply to you? In the middle of a coconut tree, there's this thing called the heart. And some people actually take the heart and use it for salad. Without that heart, the coconut tree is good as dead. Once you take that heart out, it's dead. So in this season, where we're going through a recession, maybe you're not even going through a recession, but you're going through your own process in life, you have to have the heart. Your heart has to be in the right condition. It has to be in the right place. Use your meager resources to flourish. The coconut tree has pretty much nothing. No nutrients in the soil, but it is able to flourish. What resources do you have? What is in your hand? You have no excuse. Cut up every unnecessary thing in this season. If you look at a coconut tree, there are no branches. So when the winds come, there's nothing to break. It's very flexible. So what excesses are you carrying? What people are you carrying around you that have no benefit to your life? Who are you listening to? What are you spending your time on? Cut off those things. Use what is meant to kill you to prosper you. Like I said, what are you investing in? What relationships are you fostering? The coconut tree doesn't waste time focusing on its leaves. It doesn't put nutrients on its leaves because then it begins to attract parasites. But it focuses on the seed. Focus on your vision. What vision do you have? What business? What dream do you have? Focus on that. The coconut tree has a process. It takes decades in the juvenile stage before it gets to the adult stage. You are going through a process. You will go through a process. There's all the people that I'm going to bring up here on stage. They've all gone through processes. When I did It Afraid, when I left investment banking, I thought, yes, okay, I was going to go straight into my dream. But I still had another process. I worked in church for 3 years. It wasn't very easy working in church. Even though working in church was one of the best things to have happened to me because it built my character. It made me humble. I built relationships. But it was also very humbling because I wasn't earning what I was earning. I went through a process. But you know what? I thank God for that process. Your process, your trials are building muscles for greatness for you. Our goal for this conference is to, one, give you courage to fulfill your dreams for those that want to do it afraid. But then we also understand that with everything in life, there's a process. So you may be going through the process of doing it afraid, or you may have done it afraid, but you're going through a process. You may have started a business, you're an entrepreneur, but your business is going through challenges in this economy. Or maybe it's even in your personal life, in your marriage, family. Our second goal is to encourage you in the process. Be inspired. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Oluwatoyin Olatunji Daniel. Okay. I'm here to tell you how amazing things can happen for you and to you, and how my life turned around. A lot can happen in a year. A lot can happen in a year. I hope what I share today, some people would have like a turnaround for the best. In Jesus' name. Okay, so I worked in Covenant Christian Center upon graduation from University of Lagos. I first of all started in 2007. I didn't know anything. I just graduated. I studied Yoruba in Unilag. It was the weirdest thing, but hey, that's all I had. And whatever your hands find to do, I believe that you do it well. When I graduated from school, I told God that even though I had initially I kept going for lectures in law because I thought I was going to get admission into law. And then by second session, I realized that it wasn't going to happen. So I told God that I needed help because I was losing both ways. And I told him that I'll glorify him whatever comes my way. And I never searched for a job, ever. I got my job. I started my job. I found a boss who loved me and believed in my dream. And he decided teaching me stuff. I worked for 9 years. After working for, oh my God. I can do this. I've never done this before, so I'm scared.
Do it afraid.
Okay. I started first as multimedia producer and assistant. After I did that for about 4 months, I was promoted to be head of department. I went on to be the sound editor. I went on to be the project manager for church building. And at some point or the other, I started feeling like there had to be more to life, having worked in the church for about 9.5 years. And I was scared of leaving because that was all I knew. That was my comfort zone. And, you know, when God wants you to leave something and you're still holding on, different things start to happen and you keep wondering, why am I here? What am I doing? I would usually cry. I would hide under my duvet. I wouldn't want to go out to do anything. I was a wreck. I was a mess last year. And my husband, Akin, would tell me that I should count my blessings. Added to that, I was hoping that I'll have another child. I have a 3-year-old daughter. And okay, because I wasn't content with the other side of my life, I was hoping that having another baby would do it for me. But it wasn't doing it. Well, the baby wasn't coming anyways. So I was just going deeper and deeper and deeper and everything. So I got a wake-up call when I started having some funny thoughts. You're useless, you're a failure, you come out to nothing. And at some point, I'm like, no, this is not who I am. You know, and my name is a constant reminder. My name is Oluwatoyin. That means God is worthy of my praise. And I got up, and things started arising in my environment. First, I met some lady who, total stranger to me, and she started to help me, encourage me, and tell me stuff. Her name is Fran. God bless you, Fran. And I saw stuff on Instagram. Then I met Omi. I thought, well, I'll just go on her page, see different things. And I'm like, do it afraid. Okay. And it was just strange. I was like, okay, why would I pay for this program? 20,000, just like that. And then they sent in like a report that somebody had paid for us and that we could pay 15,000. I hope I'm not boring you. Are you sure? Okay. Well, my story is very surreal because it's very, very surreal. So I paid the 15,000 naira and I come for the event. It was really, really nice. I met very real people. They gave us nice popcorn and donuts. I really love that. I met real people who had real life issues, who talked about the things they've been through. And this helped me to put things into perspective. Then Omi said something that day. She said that, oh, there's somebody one day some people in the crowd will be one of the speakers. And I was like, God, it will be nice so someday soon. And, well, I went on with my life, doing stuff and everything. And then April 2016, for the oddest reasons, I said, okay, I'm going to resign. I want Moshimo and everything. And it was scary. This is my comfort zone. These are the people that I've known for like 10 years of my life. Where am I going to start from? I don't want to be a liability. I don't want to be a stay-at-home mommy who goes to her husband for everything. No, it's not a bad thing, but hey, I wanted to help. I'm a helpmate and everything. So then I resigned. So I was hoping to go for Scrum Master certification. And I was like, okay, what will I be doing? Because I'm not one to sit around and do nothing. My husband traveled to China and he needed help. And I was like, I'll help you. And I went for the first job. The first job was terrifying. And when I got in there, for the first job, I did it. And he called and he says, the internet is agog. What's going on? And I'm like, I'm going to try new. And he was like, you can do it. Just give it a push. And I did that first one. And then, we got talking and they were like, how would you like to man the other company that we're running? And I'm like, no, I'm not that kind of wife. You do your own, I'll do my own. I don't have to be following you and telling you. And he was like, give it a thought and everything. I said, I've done my Scrum and I want to earn money. And Scrum is high paying. But we kept talking about a lot of things. When I went for my Scrum and I got back, and all our lives, my husband has always believed that we should have, I and the kids will be in the US. He will make money here and send to us, come visit. And I'm like, it's a long distance marriage. I don't know if anybody understands. I don't believe in long distance and everything. And when I got back from London, and by the way, I don't like London. I got back from London and I'm like, London was nice to me. Perhaps I'm going back for my Scrum Master job. And Akin goes, his dad spoke with him, and his dad said that Ruth's father-in-law in the Bible God was determined to bless Ruth's father-in-law in the Bible. But he left the land with his family, and they perished. Everybody perished except for Ruth and her mom-in-law. And I was like, okay. And I'm like, okay. That means we can make way in the recession. We can be blessed in God's recession. And we sat down, we talked about it, and God started opening doors for us. So I decided to join Akin officially in May. I joined him, I started work, I took over our social media page. I'll talk to people. I don't usually like to talk to people. I'm the background person. So this is really hard for me. So I like to be in the background. So people will call, hi, I thought you're a man. No, I'm a girl. And they'll talk. I'll go for weddings. I'll meet people. And I was going totally out of my comfort zone. I'm a homebody. I like to stay at home. I like to cook. I like to play with my daughter. And I always have to be outside. My daughter doesn't have to see me. She doesn't get to see me as often as she usually would. And I started getting really like, okay, let's see how this goes. But the scariest thing for me was this. Whenever I open Instagram and I see that somebody's getting married, and I'll say, God, it would be nice to do this wedding. And I'll get phone calls that I should come and do the wedding. And God has been doing amazing things for us. I'm a nobody. I don't know if I'm connecting with anybody in the crowd today. You can come from nothing. That's what I'm trying to be free. I'm trying to talk free here. You see, usually in life, we feel like when the odds are against us, we can't win. But most times, when the odds are against you, that is when you're going to win. Because God says that God uses the foolishness of the world to confound the wise. I studied linguistics in Unilag. I studied linguistics and Yoruba. If you were to look into my book in the reading room, it's Yoruba and Ami that you see there. You get what I mean? And I was like, I'm probably going to be a teacher. Do you get? And God helps me. I got a good job. Then another challenge came, and I was like, God, I need you again. God came through for me. But for me, I became totally depressed last year. I became so depressed that I was suicidal. I would wake my husband is right here in the crowd. I'll wake my husband up at night. I'll start to wail. I'll tell him that I am tired. I'm seeing things. I think I'm going to die. I think I want to die. That's bad. So I was done. And I don't know what to say, because I actually almost even feel like I don't even deserve to be here. I don't know if you guys are getting me. So you can come to ground zero. You can come to your nuts, and you won't have anything. You won't have anywhere to turn to. And when you turn to God, God is there for you. Do It Afraid conference helped me immensely, because I saw Cobhams talk about how he came from virtually nothing. He wasn't sure of anything, and he's about the #1 producer in Africa. And I just want to urge everybody in the crowd today, whatever your dreams, whatever is burning in your heart, whatever God has put in your mind to do, to achieve, you may not even have a plan, because I didn't anyways. You may not have a plan, but you deserve happiness. You deserve joy. You can be something. If you were created by God, you were made to be something. So I'm saying today, do it afraid. Set your heart on fire. And all things will ultimately work together for your good. Thank you.
Good afternoon, DA.
Good afternoon.
Everybody, please give this man a round of applause. If you follow me on Instagram, and I know I'm going to embarrass him because he's very, very quiet and very shy, he's Africa's best kept secret. I worked with him for 5 years, and most of the time was directly with him. And he played a very pivotal role in my life. And before I start, I'll just say that one story. We were going for a meeting to one of the directors at a bank. And it was myself, my other senior colleague, and DA. And in the car, as we were coming up on the street, he said, Omi, you're going to take this meeting. And I thought he was joking, because I was the most junior of the team. And at that point, I wasn't speaking publicly. I was just, within my colleagues. I wasn't confident. But as we got there, I realized that he was not joking, and I had to lead the meeting. And in my opinion, I did such an awful job that the director started laughing. I knew that, okay, something was going on here. It was a prank. So on our way back to the office, I thought, yes, I'm going to get sacked today. This is it. It was really awkward for me. I was just scared. And then DA said, you're going to get an email from HR when you get to the office. And I thought, yes, that's it. Sack. And I got to the office, and I saw this email saying that I was going to do a presentation to all staff in the company. Now I was really afraid. But I prepared myself. Thankfully, my colleague Efosa helped me as well. I wore my best suit. And unfortunately that day, DA wasn't even in the office. But I presented, and all the other directors and staff and everyone said I did a fantastic job. Now, what he didn't know was that he was preparing me for a career in public speaking. So I'm here today. I'm able to speak because he challenged me, and there's so many other ways he challenged me. So please give him a round of applause. Okay, so we'll get right into it. Please take your pens, your notepads. You're going to write because honestly, he has a wealth of experience and knowledge. So DA, you have a Do It Afraid story. Can you tell us your Do It Afraid story?
Okay. Well, first of all, good evening, everyone, or good afternoon, I should say. It looks like there are so many female aspirants here, you know. It does tell us something about us. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come here and share my experience. You know, when you ask a question like that, it's because you have an expectation that there is a wonderful story, similar to how Isaac Newton discovered gravity and all that. But truthfully, in my case, very simple. My first job was in asset management, where I worked for about 6 years. And I had an opportunity to move back to Africa to work in Côte d'Ivoire. And I was there for 2 years. But shortly after I resumed, exactly 4 months into the job, I came to the conclusion very quickly that I wasn't going to be fulfilled in that role. But of course, in all the excitement, I proposed to my girlfriend then. I'd moved to Africa, so going back wasn't an easy choice in my case. So what I then did was I simply gave myself 2 years on the job. I didn't know what I was going to do, whether I was going to go back and look for another job. I'm not even sure that the thought of starting a business came to mind. But I think the advantage for me is that I haven't given myself an extra 20 months in Côte d'Ivoire. It gave me a real chance to think about what I really wanted to do. And it made me, first of all, discover that all I know is asset management, and probably that's about all I want to do. And in focusing on that, I started working on a plan. So between working for 20 months, I was also thinking about how I was going to make that next move. So I developed a business plan, different iterations of it, because you have all the time in the world. And in a sense, it was my own way of, procrastinating, not wanting to get to the point where I could tell myself that I'd finished the business plan and I was ready to make that move, And when it came to it, and I always remember one fateful Sunday afternoon, I'd made up my mind that I was going to resign, and I was going to go to my boss to let him know. And then that afternoon, I told my wife, I'm not really sure I want to do this thing. I don't want to be the CEO, definitely. So what I'm going to do is be the technical person behind and look for a CEO. So I'm going to come up with a list and then let's choose. And that conversation couldn't have lasted more than 2 seconds or so. She said, of course you can do it. And that was it. It was that easy for me. I went ahead, told my boss I wanted to resign. And I felt he told me what I didn't want him to say.
Which was?
Say, you're doing the right thing. You can do it. Really, I wanted him to say, no. Have you thought about it? Look, let's think carefully about this. So that also encouraged me, and having to come back to Nigeria in 1994 to start a new business was a very difficult decision. But because of the time I spent planning, a number of things happened. I developed a deep passion. I developed confidence in my plan. And I got to the point where the consequences of this being a wrong decision became irrelevant. I just felt I could overcome it. So it was very easy for me. I think that whole thought process, planning for it, was a very good. So it's not the case of sitting down, looking at Nigeria, and just saying, well, there's an opportunity there, I've got to go for it. Mine didn't happen that way. So it's not a perfect story that makes a bestseller.
Awesome. So you came to Nigeria, and this was at the time where the financial industry was almost non-existent, especially a non-bank financial institution. How were you able to build such a great company like ARM, even in the difficult situation at the time?
Okay, so we're here, we're talking, and the first thing is that it's never about one person. You don't build a financial institution without a team. I think for us, ARM, I would say a number of things. And it starts with what I said earlier on. There was a good plan. It was well thought out. There were no guarantees, but it was well thought out. And I took time to do that. So confident did I become at a stage that, I made contact with a gentleman, Mark Mobius. Mark Mobius is the guru in the emerging markets world. And he was based in Singapore, and I said, well, I'd like to come and see you. And so went all the way to Singapore, and I said, well, I'm starting this business. I'd like you to invest, So he must have looked at me and thought, you mean you came all the way from Africa to see me to talk about this? And I said, well, go work on it for a few years, and then, you can come back and let's talk, So I think there was a good plan. So that, the second thing is that in trying to start the business, we try to do it well. We try to do it properly. And as an entrepreneur starting a new business, you need to give yourself a fair chance. Now, I'm sure if I ask the question here, for instance, what do you think is the biggest challenge you'll face as an entrepreneur? Most people will say finance,
Exactly.
And it's usually the wrong answer, because the money comes, and you can give two entrepreneurs the same amount of money, and one would succeed and the other would not. So it tells you that it's not about money alone.
So, but a lot of people actually, talking about money, a lot of people actually do not follow their dreams or start their businesses because they say they do not have money. And they think that the people that have started their businesses had like a bank account full of money to start. Is this true?
No, it's not. I mean, you look at a company like ARM today with about 700,000 clients, but we only started it with 10 million naira, and that was it.
10 million is big for some people.
No, but the scale of the business, the amount you need is also a function of what kind of business. But what you're saying, if you're trying to do that kind of business, you'd imagine you need a lot of money.
Of course.
But you have to start from somewhere. And I think, listening to one of the clips you showed earlier on, the first place to start is not with a bank. You need to have your own equity capital, and you need to pray that you have the right partners, the right shareholders. I think for ARM, one of the important things that really assisted us to grow was because we had the right shareholders.
So partnerships
are
important as well.
Yeah, the right. I mean, you could have the right. You could have an entrepreneur from hell. You could have a shareholder from hell. And if a shareholder, for instance, is in a hurry and does not share in a long-term view that you have of the business, then everybody is asking for a return very quickly, and that could affect your decisions and also affect your ability to grow the business. So it's very important that you do that. I think as leaders, I think it's a common mistake that you come across. A number of entrepreneurs, you have people who are very intelligent, and you need not to think too much of yourself.
Don't think too much of yourself.
Don't think too much of yourself. Because to really grow a business, you need to do that with other people. And if you want smart people want to be given the chance to make decisions, to be a part of the story, and so on and so forth. And, you know, individually, if we look at ourselves, you always come to the conclusion, you should always come to the conclusion that we're all work in progress. You know, and if you've gone through a very deep, thoughtful process, and you're honest about that introspection, you realize that there's so many things that you overcome and learn along the way, you know, from people who are not as accomplished as you, from people who have done great things. So working with good people and building a good team, I think it's very important. You know, you need to be realistic with your expectations. You know, if you've drawn that business plan, chances are, 1, you're going to need more money than you imagine, and 2, you're not going to make profits as quickly as you think you would. You know, so one of the killers that you have in our environment is that everybody wants to make money, because our definition of success is being able to make that money, buy that car, and so on and so forth. So if there is no alignment between realistic expectations for the business and your own personal objectives, then you create a problem and a conflict very quickly. I think in the case of ARM, we're extremely lucky in the sense that the people that came together in the early years had a shared vision. They believed in the dream. They believed in the leadership. I think that's very important, you know. And as a leader, you need to be able to communicate that in a way that people believe your story and want to be a part of that story. So that's an important thing that also made a difference for us. In all the business decisions that we took, we always had a long-term view of the opportunity.
So long-term view.
It's a long-term view of the opportunity. If you want to make a quick buck, then the right thing to do would be to get a contract, supply something, and that's not really the same as building a business. We felt we needed to build a brand. Your brand is what speaks to who you are as an organization. And if, for instance, your brand conveys, say, integrity, honesty, and so on and so forth, then your clients are better prepared to forgive you when you make a mistake, because they know who you are as an organization. And building that brand is something that you do repeatedly over an extended period of time, doing the same thing in a very consistent manner. You know, you can't say, if you look at annual reports of most companies, you find words like integrity and so on and so forth. But then again, we're still in Nigeria, and you read about all these things in the papers. So even people can make a distinction between what you say and what you represent as an organization. So.
And just to add to that, because I remember, before I came to ARM, I had worked in different organizations, but ARM was the first company that actually made sure that when we first joined, we had to go through the values of the company. It was important, and you actually had a test to make sure that you had incorporated the values of the company in you. Why was that so important?
It's important because as you grow as an organization, it becomes more difficult to communicate
the culture,
and the essence of the organization. So you have to make that conscious decision. You know, starting with one person, going on to 10, and then 2,000. That's a bit of a challenge. So, and the only way you can do that is to get people together to make them understand what you represent. You know, the same way our parents talk to us. You know, when you go to school, when you're going to boarding school for the first time, they lecture you on what to do and so on and so forth. So, and what I try to tell people, it's what represents our roles or our guiding principles. We're not faxed to us from heaven. It's our own chosen way of doing things. It's not the only way. But if you imagine you attended Methodist Guest High School, I think they used to wear red and white. And if you prefer the uniform of Our Lady of Apostles, as long as you're in Methodist Guest High School, you have to wear what they wear. It doesn't make their uniform better, but it's just their own way of representing themselves. I think that's what we try to do, to let people know what's the organization.
Another question I wanted to ask was, because a lot of entrepreneurs say that the problem they have is keeping staff. But one thing about ARM was that the staff turnover was quite low. And I know that there were times where like one particular person left and came back 3 times, just kept coming back. And most staff you'd hear had been there, even from the cleaners and the drivers, for 20 years, the entire time. How were you able to keep your staff and hire good staff?
Okay, so we need to remember. I speak as the ex-CEO of ARM now, so
Yes, well,
so let's
sorry.
speak. There was a time in the history of the firm where people really left. It was very difficult, but I don't think that's necessarily the case today. And that's because the industry that we helped to create has grown, and then we have competitors. And remember also that a lot of the people who worked in ARM in the early days were trained in the company. So, in a sense, the company itself has become a training ground. You have so many CEOs of asset management companies today that are ex-ARM staff. But by and large, we have people who have stayed for years. I mean, the current CEO joined in 1995. The deputy CEO joined in 1996. And then you have all those people. Why do they stay? I think it's because they have a strong attachment to the organization. They believe in the dream. They're stakeholders, they're shareholders. I think that's very important. And we recognize that we try our best. Oftentimes, we get it wrong. We learn our lessons and try to move on from there. And we're honest with that. We're honest about that. So I think there's an alignment between how people feel personally and what the organization itself represents to them.
Okay, another question I have is, there's a financial crisis now. A lot of businesses are struggling. But I remember the 2008 financial crisis. I had just moved companies. So I moved from the company that I was in before to ARM. And that was the heat of the financial crisis. Now, the other company that I was in, they sacked pretty much everybody. But ARM, throughout the financial crisis, did not sack one person. And they did not, salaries were not delayed at all. Salaries were paid on time. How should a business prepare for uncertainties and uncertain times like that? What are the things that business owners need to do so that when there's a financial crisis like this, they can still survive and thrive?
Okay, so first of all, we need to recognize that there are cycles. Good times don't last forever. Countries go through good times and they go through bad times. And if you're running a business, you need to be prepared for that. And it's interesting that you mentioned 2008 because if you all remember, that was the height of a stock market crash in Nigeria, which really was the business that we did. So if anything, asset management companies such as ARM ought to be very affected by that. But something I always tell the very young people is that it's when I have a strong view about something. I say, well, it's not that I'm smarter than you. It's just that I've been around much longer, and I've seen certain things that you haven't seen. Now, leading to 2008, what happened in Nigeria it was what we call the margin loan, where anybody could approach a bank, get a loan, and buy shares of companies and all that. But this was something that I experienced very early in my career in the 80s.
Okay, thank you.
So as an organization, we took that decision that we're not going to give margin loans. And the younger ones said, well, this is bad strategy. Company A is doing it, company B is doing that, and so on and so forth. I said, well, this is one time that I will insist we're not doing this business. And so when the crisis came, everybody wanted to sell shares at the same time, and there weren't enough buyers. And because we were not in that state of panic, it assisted us. So rather than go through that difficult time, what we did then, if you recall, was to diversify our business, which we had started about 2 years earlier. Because even if we make great hamburgers, and even if you like hamburgers, you're not going to have hamburgers every day. And we felt, We still want people to come to our store, but we want to offer them more than one product. So we diversified into real estate, infrastructure, hospitality, and all those things, such that our clients could see us differently. So that, in the period when everybody was going through those challenges, allowed us to grow the business in another direction. So,
Okay, so how important is it for an entrepreneur to be innovative? And what is the process? So you started, like you said, from asset management, then you moved on to real estate. But some people are like, I'm passionate about asset management. I just want to stay in that space. But then, like you said, you have to diversify. What is that process that an entrepreneur should go through to be innovative?
well, so let's not speak as if innovation is a silver bullet that delivers the solution. At the end of the day, it's about execution. You can have, and this is a common mistake, you can be an entrepreneur, you can be the founder of a business, you can be the one that originates an idea, but it doesn't mean anything until you've executed. It's about execution. I mean, lots of people go through this world with great ideas but never execute. So now within that space, for us, I mean, we just try to simplify our business. We're custodians of people's money. People come to us to ask us to invest their money. And at some point in time, all we did was offer them shares. And we felt we needed to do more, to give them diversification, to improve our own relevance with our clients so that we can have a greater share of their wallet. So what we did was to find ways to offer a product base that was more diversified. And that made us more relevant, because rather than go to another company to do real estate, you could do that with us as well. But once you've done that, like I said, you need to be able to execute well, because without execution, you don't really have the kind of success that you really need.
My name is Jesse. Fortunately, my video was what was showing up some few minutes ago. It's a privilege talking to you, sir. I'll call you DA. I started my business like a year now, and at first I thought my main problem was finance, like you said, and I found out it wasn't money, because in less than a year I started with zero, but I looked at our sheets, and I was like, we've gone up to close to like 20 million naira invested into the business. And you said something right now. People came in from friends and families, came in to invest into the business because they saw the idea, they saw the dream. But now I want to move the business from just getting in money to give people profit to creating that unique brand, which you just said. And because, like I said, it's not more about the money anymore. It's about sustainability, staying that far, keeping on. In the next 20 years, are you still going to be relevant? In the next 10 years, are you going to be relevant? So what is that unique skill, or what is that unique tonic that would transform your brand from just making profits or just giving people profits to an amazing brand?
Okay, that's not an easy question, but I'll try. Well, we don't have the opportunity of going through life, taking 2 steps backward to correct a mistake we made, so that the journey that we take erases that mistake entirely. And what I'm trying to say is that, every man, every woman would have his own journey. What you expect me to say are some things that do this, don't do that, but it will be the wrong thing to say, even though it will sound like the right thing. What I think is important, though, is that you need to have a plan and you need to have expectations spelled out. Those expectations have to be shared with the co-owners of a business. All right. Now, it allows you to identify whether you're all prepared to do this venture for the long haul. I mean, are your partners prepared to go through the first 5 years without a dividend? Because you need the time, and I don't know what sector it is. You need the time to build a brand. A brand is something that you build over an extended period of time. You don't build it in a year. You don't build it in 2. In financial services, your brand is very important. Your brand is everything. So if you don't build a brand, and even if we're fortunate to run into a project that delivers huge profitability in the first 1 or 2 years, it doesn't mean you've created a business. It just means that you're financially well off. So I would say that having that plan and executing on it, making sure your expectations are realistic and align with the time that you're giving yourself is very important. It's the way that we grew our own business. It's not necessarily the way that other companies have done. So I don't have a cookie cutter answer to you to your question, but I hope it offers some help.
My question is very simple. I want you to tell us one major challenge you had and how you overcame it. Your biggest challenge, maybe, and how you overcame it.
Well, I mean, I tell people every day I wake up, I know there's a problem. It's just that at the point when I wake up, I just don't know where it's going to come from. So when you talk about the challenge, it cuts across from beginning, running out of money and being nervous that you would fail. That's one challenge. Finding difficulty in scaling the business. If you don't have enough customers, then you have problems. But I think one of the big ones for us was when we had to do a management buyout. We had an institutional shareholder at inception. And we had to buy the institutional shareholder out because we got to a stage where there was no shared vision for the future of the organization. And it wasn't clear to us that on our own we could do it. So, of course, it was a decision we took with a lot of trepidation. Every time you have a crisis in the financial services industry, of course, there are concerns. But I think what has helped us to overcome most of these challenges, I would say, are the people. At the end of the day, it's about the quality of the people. And if there's one big advice that I would give to you as entrepreneurs or aspiring entrepreneurs is always understand that on your own you can't do it. No matter how brilliant you are. Remember, when you go to the bank to apply for a loan, have you noticed they never ask you for a certificate? Why do you think that's so? Because that first class that you had stopped being relevant. And you can't know everything. And even if you know a lot, you can't have the time to attend to everything. So you've got to take advantage of the people around. If you hire great people, you've got to give them a voice and let them be a part of that group. Now, once you've established a company, you have your stake in the business and you're the CEO, nobody's going to take that away from you. So why don't you get that opportunity that is presented to you freely? I think it's one of the biggest mistakes that entrepreneurs make. You have lots of people exceedingly bright, but can never execute well because people don't want to work with them, or people who work with them are not given the voice. And if you work in an organization where people feel that, well, it doesn't need my idea anyway, then you don't bother talking. You spend most of the time looking for another job. So I think that's very, very important. So there are people around you who are just there because they need a job, but the moment they have another opportunity where they find the kind of leadership that gives them the encouragement or presents a better platform, of course, they'll vote with their feet.
And just to add to that, two things. The one about the people, I know that, when I joined ARM, I think I was about 26, but I was always given a voice. At meetings, asked for my opinion. Sometimes I'll head board meetings and from investors, from, some CEOs, I would head those meetings. So I was always given a voice. Another thing about problems. Just last week, there was an announcement that there was a street party, Lagos Street Party. And I sort of had an idea that it was going to happen, but then I thought it was on the other side of Ahmadu Bello, around Silverbird. So when I heard that it was about on this side, I was very worried because I assumed there would be a lot of traffic. And, they were saying all the routes led to Eko Hotel. So I was really worried about it. And I don't know if it was stress, I don't know what happened, but I had a little bit of a meltdown. And just at that point, a phone call came from DA. And normally I would not pick up the phone, I'll finish my meltdown, but I knew that it's a very difficult, well, he was traveling and I needed to, speak to him about this. So I just cleared my throat and I picked up the phone. But then he could tell, and he said, what's going on? And I explained to him, there's going to be traffic, people won't be able to come, and he just said, Omi, I thought you were a superwoman. Don't tell me that I overrated you. That what you don't have control of, don't focus on that. Focus on what you have control of. Do what you can and leave the rest. And and he said that, and I was like, okay, that's true. And he said, all you need to do is just, your communication has been good. Just communicate to everybody that, about the routes. And I did that. And it's so funny. I came here yesterday and even today, there's no traffic. It actually is as though it worked in our favor. It's like everybody was afraid of, traffic and nobody went out. So sometimes I could have canceled this meeting because of that. But you know what? There wasn't actually any traffic.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
How do you create wealth on a 9-to-5?
I don't understand.
How do you create wealth working for someone else?
Okay, so the tongue-in-cheek response will be safe. You say, but that's not wealth creation, is it? But there's something quite interesting because everyone looks at entrepreneurship in terms of, I'm going to go and start a business. But there are institutions that are entrepreneurial and have people that are entrepreneurs working within that same institution. I mean, if you take a look at Google or Microsoft, you hear of employees that are worth millions of dollars. And I think it's an interesting concept, and one of the things that we also try to do within our organization. I mean, ARM has incubated many businesses in infrastructure, in real estate, in the traditional asset management business, and so on. And what we try to do is to give people who work as employees, even though it's what you call the 9-to-5, the sense of belonging that allows them to accumulate wealth if they stay committed to that business. So unless you have that kind of situation, the only other way you can accumulate wealth, if you call it, I say savings, doing 9-to-5, if it's not within an entrepreneurial organization, is just pure savings. So if you're in the public sector, for instance, how are you going to do that? Unless you're talking about moonlighting. So you're doing your 9-to-5, but you want to take time to do other things. But that's a completely different thing. But and for those who have, let me just say this. For those who have great ideas, and speaking to the theme of this event, I have lots of people who left Nigeria in the 80s to go to England, and they all want to come back. And they want to start a business, but stay in the UK and try to run the business, and then when the business is not doing well, they come back. So similarly, you can be in a job, and you have a great idea, but you don't have that courage to follow through, just to make it happen. Actually, one of the things that I did, which is almost counterintuitive when you think about it today, is that in moving to Cote d'Ivoire, I had the option to take a sabbatical or to leave. And in those days, nobody left the African Development Bank. It's never heard. Now, once you get to the point, and this has to be your own journey, it can't be because Banker is leaving today, I have to leave today. You have to go through that process, thinking through what you want to do, planning for it, making sure you have all the right answers. Once you can overcome, or you take yourself through that discipline, taking that plunge, so to speak, becomes a lot easier. So my own encouragement really is that if you've done that and you're absolutely sure, you're convinced it's something you should do, then follow through. I mean, you have to overcome that fear. It sounds logical that what you should do is stay in one job and try to do that from the outside. But listen, nobody's going to help you to build a business when you're out there doing something else. So you just have to face it. And everybody has his own time. You know, I started when I was 31. Is it the right age? I don't think so. I think it's a function of the sector in which you're operating. If you look at technology, you can start at 18 and still be able to create a company like Apple or Facebook in 10 or 15 years. It's unlikely that you will be successful if you started a bank at the age of 23, because the regulators won't permit you anyway and you haven't got the experience. So everybody has his own journey. You have to make your own decision. But understand that for every 10 of us that start a business, only one will see, will still be in business in a year. And of the 10% that stay in business, maybe another 80% of that will be gone in 3 years, and so on and so forth. So it makes sense for us to plan carefully about what we want to do. You know, ask yourself those questions. Understand that when you go to people, whether it's family or friends, to ask for money, they shouldn't be doing it because you're a sister or a brother. They should be doing it because they can see that you've done your homework well. That's what gets you the money. You can't just go to your brother and say, well, I want to start this business, because your brother also doesn't want to lose his money. So I don't know if there's something in there that speaks to your situation, you know.
And that brings us to the end of this session. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you
very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your questions.